So much of radio is just planning, right? Planning a show, planning guests, audio, the timing of things, planning on when to get here, for instance. Like when you leave to get to your radio show, to get to work, and it takes you approximately 4 minutes to get to work, you got to be there by 10, and you leave at 9:55 a.m., you open up the possibility of any one thing, any one wrench thrown into your travel plans causing you to be late for work. That's just poor planning. That's just being bad at your job. So Buck Rising's not here. Hello, I'm Lucas Panzica, joined in studio by Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Jonathan Schaefer, and this is our show now. Hi, guys.
You are the captain
up?
now, Lucas Panzica.
You are the captain.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You didn't even have to figure out a way to get him fired. He's going to do it to himself.
Hopefully he forgot his key card, because that would be the cherry on top.
And then he'll take one of us off the air to then let him into the building.
Which we won't do.
Which he has a key to, but probably left at home before he got stuck in traffic.
That's right.
Do we want to relive the phone call when he let you know that he wasn't going to be here on time?
Yeah, so I was sitting in the green room, and I see a call from Buck, to which I was already thinking of all the things I would like to ask him to do in order to, let him have whatever he wanted to have, including unmuting our show on Twitter, Ramon Kayla Will, at Ramon Kayla Will on Twitter. And he just said, hey, I'm not going to be able to be there. Part of Broadway is closed around Wedgwood, Houston. And Broadway West, there's a street festival going on Friday morning. So it's closed down. Waze has me there at 10:06 is what he says. And that was the end of the conversation.
I thought you were going to do a Buck impersonation.
Well,
Hey, guys, I couldn't make it in. I'm sorry.
615-737-1045. Lucas, I got stuck in traffic. Don't tell me right now. Don't get me fired.
I'm trying to pinpoint what that is. I feel like that's some sort of celebrity impersonation, but I don't know who it is.
615-737-1045 if you want to jump in.
That's better.
On the conversation.
See, I'm used to listening on the other side at this time with Lucas and Buck and just the back and forth that goes on with them. So it's funny just listening to Lucas right now.
Without the Buck. It's like it's better, right? It's crazy.
He's just basking in the glory.
You have the power to turn things into promos. You need to turn that into a promo of you just saying, it's like Buck, but with Lucas. Hey, it's better, right?
I just can't understand why I didn't make it on time.
I don't know why I didn't make it. Lucas is going to try to get me fired. You're going to take over. That's it. He does the slow radio voice, and then there's the high pitch when he's complaining about this.
So what I hate to do when Buck is not here is still make the show about Buck. So let's talk about the Titans.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about
what do you have planned for this show?
Ryan Tannehill, a full participant in practice yesterday. I know you guys have been talking about this for 4 hours on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. 6 to 10
because
a.m.
some of us get to work on time.
You get to work on time. Now, what time do you guys leave for work?
Ooh.
I leave around 5:30.
5:30. Wow, and your show starts at 6. And you live a mile away?
Yes. Well, at that point of the day, though, there is no possible variable that's going to take because there is a road by my apartment that's usually been closed recently.
Yet you still leave 30 minutes before work for what will add up to be about a 120-second drive.
The latest that I will allow myself to get here comfortably is 5. I don't like being here at 5:50, but sometimes that happens. 5:45 is what I aim for every single day.
Amazing. It's very responsible by you.
His producer won't tolerate him coming into the show as the opener's playing.
Well, the one time I showed up at 5:50, or 5:52, I think is what it was. Jonathan Schaefer on cue where you can talk to us said, "Oh, nice of you to join us," and that was 8 minutes before the show started.
I think giving a half hour for anything in Nashville, unless you're further, I'm 15 minutes away, so a half hour in the morning is good timing for me. But yeah, I think you got to give yourself a half hour in Nashville. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page with this.
Especially on a day when it's raining like
raining.
today.
It's a miserable day of weather. Hopefully the rain clears up. Oh, would you look at that?
Wait, do we have intro music?
Hello. What time is it?
10:06.
Oh,
Waze was right.
well, I'll give him credit. He said 10:06, and he is in here at 10:06.
No, there is no credit to give here.
I can't hear him, which is great because I don't have my headphones in. You keep it down back there. Back to the shadows.
I'll figure out what Mike used.
Today, this is the Lucas Panzica Show with Buck Rising. I think for today.
I am out of breath like Jake Matthews running to make that Thursday night football game after having a child. Except I don't have a kid, so I have no good excuse.
You just have a cat, Buck.
You just have 2 cats.
I have 2. Yeah, that's it. I don't know what the hell street festival is going on
Well,
in the middle of Broadway right now.
In the rain? Yeah,
Oh,
good
my
question.
You should turn your mic on.
Yeah, it is the Buck Leave Earlier for Work on a Rainy Day festival.
You know what? I did. I left on time.
That mic says it's on it. It's
it
like
is.
not on.
It's potted down. It's out of program. So,
Oh,
Kayla,
perfect.
Yes,
you were at Titans practice yesterday.
I was.
Ryan Tannehill, full participant.
Yes.
Judging by how he's moving around, how he's warming up on that right foot, the plant off the right foot to throw the football, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you see Ryan Tannehill's chances at playing against the Denver Broncos on Sunday?
9.
9.
Because anything can happen between that time. But I think from everything we've seen this week, him getting back, him actually taking reps, I saw him running a little bit yesterday, 2 stretch. That's all pointed in the right direction. Oh, God.
This microphone's not out of program.
You're going to break things
Here
in the
comes
studio.
Buck. Buck's just taking over.
You can't hear me. I think he got me already. What a jerk.
I'm 5 steps ahead of you, buddy.
He's just trying to get back on the mic here.
So a scale of 1 to 10.
I
you
think a
have
9
Ryan
because
Tannehill at a
anything can
9.
happen. Yes, but I do believe he's going to play.
Oh, now this mic works. This is great.
I potted it back
Oh,
up.
perfect. Thanks, Lucas. Appreciate it, bud.
All right.
You gonna let me talk now?
So coming up in a few minutes,
Oh.
our buddy Ben Jarvis, the drummer of the great Nashville band, the Wild Feathers, will join us. He will be our college football guest picker. A lot of games to pick on Saturday. Will Bowling and Kayla Anderson.
This is great.
What's the best
Testing.
other than Washington State and who was it? You said Washington State. has
Arizona
this-
State.
They
Arizona
got
State.
Arizona
Harson's
State. They're going to
future
whoop
son.
some
It's right.
tail.
75 microphones in here.
Future
I don't
home
know
of
these work.
future home of Brian Harsin.
Ow!
So, other than Washington State and Arizona State, what's your favorite college football matchup of the weekend? Because I think people are going to look very quickly to TCU and Texas. That has the most implications on
Alabama, Ole
Tennessee.
Miss.
Alabama, Ole Miss.
The odd couple reuniting.
Yeah.
Opposite sidelines.
That was supposed to be the game of the SEC West last season. Lane Kiffin told us to grab our popcorn. Buddy, this isn't going to work for you.
You're not going to turn this one off, are you,
And
you
now-
jerk?
Now you're just invading Kayla's personal space.
Yeah. This is cool. What are we doing?
I'm probably going to get an HR
It's
call at
turning
this
into
point.
an HR issue.
You know who's on time to work? People that work in HR.
Everybody in the HR department at Cumulus Nashville
They were
was on time
this
today.
morning.
They were on time today.
I guarantee you.
This is phenomenal, Buck.
Steps in anyway.
Now Buck said he's getting his steps in. I'm glad that the ambient sound of when you talk loudly enough, as Buck always does, elsewhere in the studio, it does make its way to the mic, but it's like we can hear you, but we can't hear you.
HR!
Oh, wow. Yeah, we can really hear you now. Gator Mike on Twitter says, we love the @Lucas Panzica show anyway. Sorry, Buck.
God.
Lucas, your thoughts.
Trippin' Titans on YouTube says Luke is trying to make an actual program out of this insanity. I'm just trying to do my job, and Buck is coming in here with a wrecking ball to it.
Like Miley Cyrus, Buck.
I was just trying to
There he
follow the
goes.
Tennessee cross-country meet that was going on and was pulled back into the line of duty.
So, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you.
Have a good call tonight, by the way.
Thank
on
you.
the
Buck
handing out the
television
baton.
call.
Thank you for showing up on time and staying after your show, going the extra mile. Coming up next, Ben Jarvis of the Wild Feathers, our college football guest picker ahead of Week 11 in the college football
God.
slate. It's the Lucas Panzica Show on 104.5 The Zone. The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
I'm here. Everything's fine. Today it's the Butt Rising Show, not the Buck Rising Show. Either way, we're doing Celebrity Guest Picker as we do every Friday during the remainder of the college football season. We got Ben from the Wild Feathers in the house hanging out today.
All right, what's up? It's good to see y'all. I'm honored to be here on the Lucas Panzica show. I'm not sure if the interim host is going to get the job now, but yeah. Lucas, you're like the Cadillac Williams of the show now.
Oh, look at him. He came with SEC jokes.
Fantastic work by you.
Yeah. I might have some more to say about Cadillac Williams later. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're here because I hear you are a true degenerate as it relates to the world of college football. Now, you've come in here already looking for a fight with that Georgia Bulldogs hat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wear it that much, actually. And I see
Only
you got,
when you're covered in glory after just smoking Tennessee at home.
Right. I see the Bill Dance UT hat over here. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to see some of that. So I did have to wear my favorite Georgia hat.
Buck does not know who Bill Dance is. So.
I do know who Bill Dance is.
I brought him up once as a potential guest picker for game day. You had absolutely no idea.
I've since looked him up.
Okay.
Well, that would have been amazing.
Guy, yeah?
Yes, the fishing guy.
Bleep you.
That's right.
Yeah, that would have been an amazing game day picker.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
So your Georgia fandom, that has to be such a fantastic feeling right now because it's not just that you're the defending national champions. You guys are absolutely rolling at this point. And I know, I've heard stories about you pulling up a Georgia game on your phone while doing a drum set in the middle of a gig. This is a true story, fact or fiction?
It has happened.
Okay.
I wasn't glued to it, but I do remember
I wasn't glued to it.
What was the game? I don't know what the
it was
game
the 2019 Notre Dame Georgia game, and it was a short set. Luckily, we went on right before Georgia kind of took a commanding lead. But yeah, I mean, I just put it on the floor right down there by one of my feet, so I could peek at it. So yes, it's true, but I'm not a monster, and I do care about entertaining people when I get the chance.
I'm not a monster.
I respect that. I actually respect you more for that.
Okay.
With this crowd, it's only going to endear you to them.
Okay.
So we've got a bunch of games on the board. Now, after sticking to 6, you put 75 on here this week. How many games? Why did you decide on so many games after paring it back in week 2? Yes, you.
Oh, you're talking to me?
You in the back with the big head.
I don't know. I want to get Ben's thoughts on some of these.
Okay.
All right.
So set it up. So another round of celebrity guest picks. The records right now, I'm 9-6. Lucas, 6-9. Guests are 6-9. So Ben can get them right with a couple of wins today.
I had a horrible week last week. Absolutely awful week last week. So.
Well, I'm just throwing darts out here. So turns out any advanced analytics or study on this, not worth your time. What's the first game on the board?
Usually we end with the Tennessee game, but we're going to get this one out of the way. 11 a.m. kick, CBS, Tennessee trying to bounce back from being completely smothered by Ben's Bulldogs last Saturday. Vols are a 20.5-point favorite on senior day. Style points matter in the eyes of the College Football Playoff Committee. So, Ben, does Tennessee cover 20.5 against the lowly Missouri Tigers with that pesky defense?
So yeah, I see the narrative here about it's going to be tough for Tennessee to bounce back after that. And Missouri loves playing close games. They get into lots of one-score games, but like you said, style points do matter. And if there's a few teams who are great at them, I mean, Tennessee Volunteers are one of the best at it. And really, I'm not that worried about it. I mean, I could easily see this being like Vols getting high 40s. Missouri just getting to 20. So, I mean, I would go ahead and lock up the Vols. I would, on good old Locky Top here. So I'm sticking with the Vols. Yeah, I think I don't think they're going to be that phased. And if you love the Vols, it'll probably be a fun game to watch. If you don't, it might be boring. I don't know. But,
they just want one where they can sit back and halfway through the third quarter and be like, all right, we got this one in hand.
Yeah, it'll be like the Vols. I feel like it'll be like the Vols we've seen all year, like another 44-6 Kentucky type deal.
So what was just to kind of stick within the purview of a bounce back potentially, and I'll take them to cover the 20.5 as well. Were you surprised to see? I know you are familiar with how good your defense is, but were you surprised to see just how thoroughly Georgia shut down Tennessee when nobody's been able to have the answer for that all year long?
Honestly, yes, I was very surprised. I'm very pessimistic usually when it comes to the Bulldogs, which is wild. I don't know, but yeah, I was surprised. I mean, the whole time I was looking at that line, it opened as like Georgia's like an 11.5 favorite, and we always ask like, what does Vegas know that we don't know? But I was still thinking, well, I mean, yeah, I guess Georgia could beat them, but still like by like a couple touchdowns, no way. I mean, okay. If you told me Georgia wins by a couple of touchdowns, I'm thinking, okay, so Georgia scores 56 points in that game, and that seems crazy. So yes, I was surprised by that.
11 a.m. on SEC Network. 3-6 Vanderbilt at 6-3 Kentucky, the number 24 team in the country. Cats favored by -18. Very up and down season for Mark Stoops' group. So what do you like, Ben?
If you took Vanderbilt preseason to hit their 3 wins for the season, you already cashed that in September.
Did
so
you?
that was nice. Yeah.
You took that?
Yeah. They got to 3 wins in September. They covered by went over by October. But I don't know. Still, I mean, I just don't see how they're gonna get to more than how they're gonna cover an 18-point spread against Kentucky. I mean, like I think Kentucky's offense has been overrated kind of all year, but still, I mean. It's Vanderbilt. I'm sorry. I think the Cats will do it at home. Yeah.
Here's my thing. Like all of the intel that we have so far on both of these teams would tell me to pick Kentucky in that spot. Like Ben said, at Mighty Kroger Field, few walk into Mighty Kroger Field and take the fight to the tackle cats.
You
that
walk
way.
out with an L and a dozen eggs.
you don't just waltz in there.
You don't just waltz into Kroger Field. So, but for the sake of comedy, like if I'm betting with your money, you listening in your car, on your YouTube chat, wherever you're listening to us today, FM radio, as you like. If I'm betting with your money, I'm betting Kentucky. For the purposes of just pure comedy and entertainment, I would like to take Vanderbilt in this spot. I think I would enjoy that. It's the nonsensical thing to do, but I'm down for a little nonsense.
Fair.
And I want nonsense in that game.
Hey.
Sure, yeah, and AJ Swan's a playmaker anyway. I mean, he's great.
Ole Miss ran for 448 yards against Vanderbilt, so I think Kentucky will just be able to run at will.
Kentucky's going to be able to do all right.
Kentucky was super lucky to get out of that game alive. Yeah.
Are they?
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, they didn't win that game. But yes.
Which game you talking about?
I was talking about the Ole Miss Kentucky.
Oh
game.
yeah. They should have won that game.
Yes, they should have won that game.
So, well, I mean, a non-call on the targeting, right? That caused a Will Levis fumble.
Yeah, well, there were mistakes there. There were penalties. There was a Will Levis interception late. That they should have won that game. They did things for them to not win that game.
They have just seemed a little fraudy all year long, Kentucky.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they were super hyped and overrated coming into the season. I mean, they obviously have some offensive line problems. I mean, I don't know if Will Levis is really the NFL scout they make him out to be, but they made him out to be, preseason. I mean, all everybody's talking about is Will Levis number one.
Buddy, smart football, like far smarter football people than I or Lucas. Like we talked to a lot of smart football people who were like, this guy can have if this guy has a great season, he can potentially be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, which I mean, they're way smarter than me, but he's obviously missing Wandale.
Yeah,
he's missing Wandale. So yeah.
11 a.m. ESPN. Big SEC West game here. If LSU wants to avoid a hangover after that win against Alabama last week, they need to win out to win the SEC West, and it starts with a 5-4 Arkansas team that lost at home to Liberty last week. LSU, the number 7 team in the country, at 7-2. They are favored by 3.5 on the road. KJ Jefferson's probably going to play in this one. I don't know that he's totally healthy. So, Ben, can Arkansas bounce back and get the upset, which would just cause chaos in the SEC West?
Yeah, I mean, red hot LSU versus a kind of reeling Arkansas right now. This is another thing I talk about, like what does Vegas know? I mean, I don't know why the spread is so low. You would think it would be, LSU by more than a touchdown, I would think. But I don't know what they know. So part of me wants to take Arkansas, just because I love a home dog. But let me tell you something about the state of Arkansas. I don't know. Do y'all know what happens tomorrow in Arkansas?
No, tell us.
It's the opening day for modern gun hunting season, which means you can go out and hunt deers with guns, not crossbows.
Okay.
At 11 a.m. kickoff, maybe the Razorback faithful won't be as juiced for this game because they'll be out hunting. They're looking forward to hunting. It's kind of a disappointing season. So I guess that's why I've got to take the Tigers.
So it's deer? That's the season that we're in?
It's something like you can it's deer season, but modern gun means you can like go out there and hunt with a rifle. You don't have to. Up until this point, you would have to hunt with like a crossbow or something like that,
or like a knife,
but anyway,
like Traylon Burke.
so they are. So I think that's what a lot of the Razorback fans are going to be more interested in this weekend, and not trying to spark an upset.
To upset a top 10 team. You know what? No, give me the Hogs. Give me the Hogs on that.
But I've got advanced analytics right here talking about hunting season.
Listen, hey man, there are stranger things that could affect these lines. I will take all information, and I am so like hunting ignorant about all of these things. So the fact that that's knowledge that you're just sitting on the top of your head, it's more value than I brought to the table.
But you're going Hogs outright?
Yeah. Give me them.
Okay, I do love that. I love that. I'm just not doing it.
No, I listen, a home dog, as you said, I like it. That's a fun game usually anyway,
Yes.
no matter where
yes.
these two teams are in their respective seasons. The Liberty loss is so baffling. I haven't had a chance to see that game other than I saw the amount of Hugh Freeze hospital bed memes of him coaching from the hospital bed, giving the thumbs up.
I love that.
That made me very happy to see.
Yeah.
But 21-19, Liberty beat them, and now they're in the top 20
Yep.
at this point.
So 2:30, the CBS game of the week. Alabama under Nick Saban has not lost back-to-back regular season games since year one of Nick Saban in 2007. So number 9 Bama 7-2, reeling off that loss at LSU. They stay on the road at 8-1. Number 11 Ole Miss. Bama favored by 12 here, Ben.
It's a big number.
Yeah, it's a huge number.
But I know it's been different for Alabama over the past 2 seasons, especially in like close games. They've been in a lot more close games recently than they have since Saban's been there. But I mean, it's just always hard to pick against Nick Saban. And I remember you remember this game last year. There's a lot of hype around Ole Miss, and of course Bama was better last year. But they came in and just like ran all over them, and I think we might see more of the same. I don't think it'll be as high scoring. In fact, I think I like the under here at like 64.5. Like I think I think Bama's gonna cover that 12-point spread. Like, and I think it could be like a boring game unless you're an Alabama fan. Like it could just kind of be a slow bludgeoning maybe.
Which is something that I'm sure that they would like. I'm sure Nick Saban would like that.
Yeah. Oh, he would love that. I think he might want to get back to that old school kind of bludgeoning stuff.
Well, I mean, we always see these kind of trends in football. It happened in the NFL, and certainly there's been kind of a return to form where you start with these high volume passing offenses, and by result, defensive players just get lighter. They get smaller. You're looking for guys who can move in space, and all of a sudden, at some point, somebody's going to turn things around, start playing bully ball again, and be able to run on defenses like that. So I don't think that they're outright built for that kind of correction right now, but I do think that they have the opportunity to get right. I do think Ole Miss covers the 12, though. That's a big number.
It is.
Ben Dumas of the Wild Feathers here with us on 104.5 The Zone. We're doing some celebrity guest picks for the Week 11 college football slate.
Yeah, if you're picking Ole Miss to win this game outright, you're picking something that has literally not happened in well over a decade.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, like I just don't see that. I mean, that would literally be historical.
But I am going to go Ole Miss to cover, though.
Okay.
Ole Miss to cover for sure, not straight up.
Yeah, I mean, you could see like especially a nice backdoor. Like I mean, say like it's 35 to 14 late in the fourth, and and they get to they get up to like the high 20s or something.
But you got Bama covering here?
Yeah, I do, just because also just a Georgia fan. I've just got like some kind of like some like shell shock with Bama, and I just think they're just always going to kind of cover everything.
We'll hit a little bit on this game in the next segment on the SEC stat of the day. Quickly here.
What a tease. What a pro.
Big time. 2:30 p.m. I showed up on time, too. 2:30 p.m. kickoff on ESPN2. Quick one here. I don't think we need to spend too much time on it. 7-2, number 22, UCF. At 8-1, number 17, Tulane. It's actually a huge game in the American to decide who might get that New Year's Six bowl out of the G5. Tulane favored by 1.5, Ben.
Yeah, I think if Bama Ole Miss gets boring, go ahead and switch over to this game. This should be a great game. I just always love Tulane. I love Willie Fritz. And John Rice Plumlee might be hurt. I think it's going to be a game time decision. I think it should be an awesome, good, close game. But I'm just still going to have to ride the green wave here. I think that Willie Fritz might might outcoach him. Might say, "Welcome to the AAC." That's not on.
Welcome to the AAC.
And then leave, because then they're leaving next year.
We're going to the Big 12.
When will we know the status of John Rice Plumlee? Because I assume that's why the line looks the way that it does.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's banged up. They probably don't want us to know the status until like warm-ups or game time.
Understandably so. He is just such an electric player
He's fun.
to watch.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun. Without knowing the quarterback situation, I'd probably take Tulane to cover that 1.5 too.
Tulane to cover. All right, 3 p.m. SEC Network, SEC East matchup here. South Carolina is at Florida. The Gators trying to clinch bowl eligibility. They are favored by 8 at home over USC. Ben?
It's hard to get a read on either one of these two teams in this game. And I think that's why we have Florida at -8.
Yes, -8.
Yeah, I think that's just why I'm just going to go ahead and take the Gamecocks here. They keep a lot of games close.
To win or cover?
To cover, I still think Florida wins. I just think, and then I think Florida. It might not be overly convincing. I don't think it'll look like a shootout or a super close game, but I think they'll cover the 8.
What do you make of the Florida experience so far? I know it's pretty early in the season. But to look at the job that Billy Napier's done and kind of the roller coaster ride that they've been on this season, what have you kind of made of that?
And like I said, it's hard to get such to get a good read on him. Anthony Richardson flashes just so much potential. It's scary, but it's still just been so up and down for him. And I can't really tell exactly what their offensive identity is.
Well, they don't seem to know.
Yeah, and I think maybe they're still trying to figure it out. So it's, I don't know, and also their defense has been up and down. They're coming off some rough years of their defense just kind of being kind of soft under Todd Grantham. But maybe Billy Napier can change some of that.
That's a hot take coming in here, just taking a side shot at Todd Grantham.
Todd Grantham. I mean, hey, he coached at Georgia for a while. There was some years where I loved Todd Grantham there, but I feel like his career hasn't aged well. Maybe he's the problem at Alabama right now.
Oh. He just tickled with himself.
Yeah.
Listen, I do think there's going to be a lot of coaching turnover, though, with Alabama this year. It does feel like that is very much on the horizon, either because guys are getting other jobs or, just a kind of a mutual understanding that, okay, this is probably where we need to part ways. Next on the board.
Who did you have, Buck?
Oh, I'm sorry. Give me South Carolina to cover.
Yeah, me too. 6 p.m. ESPN. Your Georgia Bulldogs undefeated, #1 at Miss State. 6-3 against Mike Leach's air raid. Is there a hangover here, Ben, for your dogs who are favored by 16?
That's very likely. Georgia hasn't played in Mississippi State and Stark Vegas since 2010, I believe, and they lost that game.
Who was the quarterback?
Oh, for Georgia then? I guess that must have been Aaron Murray's
right
freshman
after Stafford.
Year. Yeah. Well, it was Stafford, then Joe Cox for a season, and I think that was Aaron Murray's true freshman, or maybe not true freshman, but that was Aaron Murray's freshman year, and they lost in Starkville. But so check this out. Mississippi State on the road is averaging 13 points a game. At home, they're averaging 43 points a game.
It's crazy.
Yes. So, but honestly, I don't think they're going to score 43 points. It as easily as I could see it, it being something, like I was saying about one of the other games, like it could be like Georgia's got everything in control, there could be an easy backdoor cover for Mississippi State. I'm still just going to have to go Georgia here. Call me Lock Bowers. I'm going to lock up the dogs here. I just think, what if it, 37-20? I mean, that's still covering and, something like that. And 20 points kind of is considering that, like, Mississippi State does a pretty good job on offense,
Lock Bowers. Give me Georgia to cover.
Yeah. The only thing that gives you pause is what Georgia did at Mizzou, right? But I think they're locked in the rest of the way.
That was early enough in the season where you're just kind of like
Georgia covers.
Yeah, and also coming into this preseason, you would have had this game circled like this is the trap game for Georgia. But I think Tennessee being so good kind of like untrapped this game because that Tennessee came to good. So in a weird way, I think it's less of a trap game now than it was. And last time Georgia played Mississippi State, in 2020, Mississippi State gave them a run for their money then. That was a COVID year. But like Mike Leach, you can never tell if he's going to do something if he's just not going to have his team show up or if he's got something totally crazy planned to just play spoiler.
I just don't know. I don't know how you can top the fat little girlfriend fish sandwich lemonade.
He brought
spiel.
it back. He brought back the fat girl.
The fat little girlfriend. He brought it back.
And you know what? He's the only one that can hold up that way in the year 2022. I feel like
true.
anybody else would have got buried.
We're going to skip over this 6:30 kickoff on ESPN2. Running out of time here. But number 15, UNC at Wake. By the way, Don Davenport is on this game. The over-under for this game is 77. 6:30 p.m. on SEC Network. A&M at Auburn. Something's got to give. Both these teams have lost 5 in a row. Cadillac Williams, first game at home as the interim. Auburn's favored by 1.5, Ben.
Okay, I mean, who would have thought we would have been here with these two teams? If A&M's 3-6, if they lose, they're going to be 3-7. I mean, not going to bowl, which is crazy. And I mean, I guess we could have seen the Auburn collapse, but Cadillac Williams is going to be there. And as a Georgia fan, I hate Auburn so much, but I have so much respect for Cadillac Williams, and so I think even if it's just for one night, he's going to channel something in Jordan Hare Stadium and return Auburn to this classic Auburn glory, at least if it's just for this one night. And it's going to be a magical moment for Cadillac Williams, the interim coach, first African American head coach at Auburn University.
Really?
So, yes.
I didn't know that.
And so I don't know. I hated Cadillac Williams because he ran all over Georgia a couple times, but I mean, but also love him because he's awesome. And so, this is just a feel, and I think Cadillac he's going to get him excited to play, and then you're going to see like a hard hitting, hungry Auburn team.
God, this is a science experiment game. I'll take Auburn to cover. For more, not just because I respect Cadillac Williams, maybe not as much as Ben does, but because I think the Jimbo Fisher. Like, I think if they miss a bowl, I think he might get. I really think they might pony up. I really think they might pony up. Like something deep down, some wildly wealthy Texas oil man is going to go find that $85 million and be like, you know what, bleep you, get out.
Yes. They've both been terrible, but Auburn will have the vibes on Saturday.
I mean, I feel like I don't know how much Texas A&M wants to play, really, by this point. I mean, they're just so reeling. I don't know. And, so.
Okay, they're already losing recruits.
Yep.
Big one at 6:30 on ABC. Big one for Tennessee fans. If TCU loses this game, Vols are probably in the playoff. Number 4 TCU, undefeated at 6-3. Number 18 Texas. So these teams kind of fit each other well this game because TCU is a team that likes to come back and win in the second half. Texas is a team that likes to build leads and blow them in the second half. The Horns are favored by a touchdown at home, Ben.
I mean, just an amazing game, amazing story with everything with this game. And like you said, I mean, you wouldn't have thought that Texas would be favored by a touchdown here. So again, what does Vegas know? We don't know. Yeah, the narrative is that like TCU's finding ways to win, and the narrative, TCU is finding ways to win. Texas for seasons is just finding ways to lose. So like, what's going to give here? I don't know. I'm going to take TCU to cover, but I still think Texas is going to play spoiler here. Like Quentin Johnson, the TCU receiver, might be a little hurt. We don't know. And I think Bijan Robinson is going to make a statement. And
he is spectacular.
He's one of the best, one of the top 5 players in college football.
Easily.
I think he'll be the best player on the field. And so so give me TCU. But if I had to pick a winner, I'm taking Texas.
TCU to cover. I'd probably take them to win too. I just don't like Texas with expectations. Nothing about that feels good. You want to talk about vibes? Those are bad vibes.
Those are bad vibes. Yeah.
I got TCU covering, Texas winning. I mean, Texas was favored against K-State, and everybody's looking around like, what? K-State just beat OK State 48-0. Texas won that game, the more talented team. The road's got to end at some point for TCU. Yes. I think they're playing above their heads. I think it happens in Austin. Yeah,
their luck might run out a little bit here. But I mean, TCU is an awesome story. And when you look at a lot of like advanced metrics, I mean, like, numbers say that like Texas is just better on both sides of the ball.
All right. Ben from the Wild Feathers has been our celebrity guest picker this week. A vinyl re-release of their album Medium Rarities is coming up towards the end of the month, November 25th. You can get signed copies, and you'll look forward to that. It's a really, really cool project that I know you guys are proud of, and I know you're excited to get it back out there for people.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming in, buddy.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun. Y'all enjoy the games. It's an awesome slate. Thanks for having me here.
Bring more SEC jokes next time. All right, SEC Stat of the Day. That's next. Man, it's always fun when we can hang out with our friends in studio. We appreciate Ben from the Wild Feathers coming in to make some picks. We're going to keep track of that for people on the internet, yeah?
We will keep track of it. We didn't even mention congrats to Ben for having his first kid just a few days ago.
Oh, damn it. That's my fault.
And his wife had a baby, so congrats to him.
Thank you for doing that. I forgot to do that.
Had to make sure we get that mention in.
Well, it is I can't imagine what an experience that might be because it happened. It sounded like they were watching a good bit of the Georgia-Tennessee game from the hospital.
Yep, it was during the Tennessee-Georgia game.
Wild. So are we? When do you want to hash this out? What happened this morning between you and me? You want to do this now? You want to do this later after SEC State of the
Just bury it deep down.
Okay.
Just bury it deep down and never talk about it again.
That's a healthy thing.
That's the healthiest way to deal with things.
As far as I know, it's worked in every relationship that I've had. Just suppress it. Keep it deep down. Okay. We'll have repressed arguments later on in the show about my arrival time.
Them's the breaks.
Yeah, that's right, Boris. They sure are. Honestly, that sound and the Star Wars polls open. Those are the two things that make me happier than anything else that we do. Before we get to the SEC stat of the day, let's get Phil in Portland on with us. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Buck. Thanks for taking my call. Happy Miller Lite Day to all y'all on here. I know Turkey Day is coming along, and I hope you get to spend time with your family. I know. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I heard you say that you don't like taking vacations too often.
Well, I don't, and I will not be with my family for Thanksgiving, Phil. I will be with your Tennessee Titans because they have practice that week. So that's how the holiday season goes, but that's fine. I appreciate the thought.
Okay, no problem. Hey, one quick question, Buck, and I don't know if maybe I'm looking at this wrong. I know the gentleman said that, style points matter in college, but I'm wondering if you're Nick Saban or whoever, coach, and you're out here, your objective is just to win the game, and how often do you leave your starters in to get style points? Or when you get up to a certain point, you would think that, no, I'm going to pull them out. I'm not going to risk injuries over style points. So I just wanted to hear what you had to say. How serious is that to the teams versus to just the committee? But you have a blessed day. Thank you. Thank you, Buck.
Thank you, Phil. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, and thank you for the kind words. So that is an interesting question because it's not like there's like a number that you have to get to in any given game, and it's the thing about coaches in game. Okay, and we struggle with this, I think, sometimes with Mike Vrabel immediately after, in the postgame press conference, immediately after, in the bowels of whatever stadium that we're in. Their vantage point and what we see versus what they have had the opportunity to see from the sideline and have all the different things to process, like it's a much different experience for them than it is for us. So I don't know if in the back of let's say Josh Heupel or Nick Saban's head, they're thinking about, okay, we're up a certain amount on an opponent that's going to matter for the purposes of college football playoff optics. Let's continue to press this thing. It probably depends because that's a different kind of situational awareness that I think it just doesn't come naturally when you're in a position like that. So it's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up, Phil. What is the SEC stat of the day, speaking of Nick Saban?
The SEC stat of the day today is about the Alabama-Ole Miss game happening on Saturday, which we talk about LSU losing to Arkansas, potentially causing chaos in the SEC West, while Alabama beating Ole Miss would do the same thing, or vice versa. There's some interesting things that could happen on Saturday. Alabama is averaging 137 rush yards per game allowed in the last 5. They were a top 10. They still are a top 10 rushing defense, but in the last 5, that number has dipped. They allowed over 180 rush yards against Arkansas, Tennessee, and LSU. 2 of those 3 games, obviously, are the source of their 2 losses. They're allowing 104 rush yards per game on the year, 137 in the last 5. Ole Miss averaging 156.8 rush yards per game in the last 5. They put up 390 against Texas A&M. They put up 448 against Vanderbilt. 448 rush yards.
It's crazy.
Is absurd. They've averaged 267 per game all year, the best mark in the SEC. Nick Saban's talked a lot this season about the anxiety with his players, some of the focus issues, and he all brings it back to him and how he has to do a better job. He doesn't pass blame.
No, but he's not saying that things he's not saying something like that at a turn. Like it's not just some, there's a reason that Saban's talking about that.
Absolutely. And he's talking about things that you've never heard him talk about. He talked about dealing with anxiety from his team before the Tennessee game. That's not Alabama football. That's not what we know Alabama football to be. Our friend Josh Pate made a really interesting theory on this going into the Ole Miss game. Defending the run is one of the most effort, gut-check things that you can do in football, that you have to kind of rise up to the occasion to do, to bring yourself to do. And I wonder if some of those mental issues Alabama is dealing with will come into play defending the best team running the football right now in the SEC.
What the conversation would be like, even
if they lost to Ole Miss?
If they lost to Ole Miss, back-to-back losses within a season and a 3-loss season for Nick Saban.
If Alabama loses to Ole Miss and Arkansas knocks off LSU, boom, Ole Miss controls their destiny to go to the SEC championship, and you would think to go to the playoff because they're a one-loss football team.
So you're talking about when you said 448 rushing yards
against Vanderbilt.
That's not correct, right? It was 448 passing yards for Jackson Dart versus 143 rushing yards on the ground. I just wanted to make sure that I had that correct in the box score that I'm looking at.
Oh, that's my mistake then.
Okay, 448 rushing yards would seem an astronomical number. That's why I wanted to make sure that was correct. No, so Jackson Dart, but they haven't had, but to Lucas's point though, they haven't had much of a passing counterpunch beyond Vanderbilt all season long. Like they've had a rushing attack because Jackson Dart, whose name sounds like he should be every quarterback ever, it's not been that smooth of a process for him coming in this year and trying to take the reins on that thing. But they do have the kind of ground game that can make up for it. And as Lucas pointed out, I mean, now that it's in their heads and now that maybe they'll play looser, maybe they'll play in a more free fashion now that the burden of playoff expectations is off their shoulders. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, you're probably looking at a Dave Aranda type situation where he's pissed because his team dropped a game before they ended their season on a win. And he's like, well, that means that we needed that kind of motivation from a loss to go out and beat an opponent that we think we need to be able to hang with anyway. It's just kind of the mentality that coaches are looking at from week to week that way.
I'm glad you pointed that out because that is my mistake. I misread the box score with that game. But nonetheless, Ole Miss is rushing the football at a better clip per game than anyone in the league. Quinshon Judkins is the second lead rusher in the SEC, a freshman that Nick Saban said Alabama looked at, and he said in hindsight probably would help our team this year. And Zach Evans has put up nearly 700 yards of rushing offense this season as well. So, yes, thank you for that correction. But my point stands that Alabama has struggled to stop the run in each of their 2 losses this season. Ole Miss has done that running the football better than anybody in the SEC if you look at the numbers.
Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can interact with the show there. You can call in if you like, 615-737-1045. Jake Downard on the YouTube chat says, Lucas has to know better than to slip up around NCAA football expert Buck Rising.
Completely fair.
How the turntables.
In my defense, you've had a couple significant slip-ups this week as well.
Oh.
Yes. We stuffed it down, and then we bring it back.
This is why repressions don't work in a relationship. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill was a full participant in practice on Thursday. Jeffrey Simmons, Amani Hooker, and Zach Cunningham, as well as Tier Tart, did not practice as the 5-3 Titans are back at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. They host the 3-5 Denver Broncos, who come out of the bye week. The Lee Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 10 a.m. Titans countdown at 11 for a noon kick with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew. Mike Vrabel will tell us who will not be available for Sunday's game coming up around 1 o'clock. You can hear that on Blaine and Mickey. The 5th-ranked Tennessee Vols look to bounce back from the first loss of the year at Georgia. They host Missouri tomorrow morning on Senior Day in Neyland Stadium, an 11 a.m. kickoff. Vol Network coverage begins at 9 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. Thursday Night Football last night, the Falcons dropped an NFC South result at the Panthers, 25-15. They fall to 4-6 and to second in the division. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 off and rolling. This one a little smoother than the start that we had at the start of the show, but either way, happy to be here with you guys on a Friday. We made it. We're going to finish strong here until 1 o'clock with you guys, and then Blaine and Mickey take over. 3HL keep you entertained through the rest of your afternoon and evening. Lucas Panzica back there making it happen, allowing me to stay on the air, it seems, for the start of this hour. Hello, bud.
For the time being,
Okay.
Hello.
Did you have fun with the clown show that I caused this morning?
I enjoy spending time with Kayla, Will, and Schaefer, so yes. Yes, I did.
We all made it. I hope that got caught on video because I think that's we're not going to
did.
do better radio than that.
It did.
All right. Well, as long as we can pub my shame out there for clicks, we're doing good things on a Friday. We're going to talk to Coach Mack here in about 15 minutes. We'll get into more of the Ryan Tannehill stuff. Looks like he's on track to start on Sunday against the Broncos. We'll keep you updated with that. I'll head out to practice right after this and see what developments there are to be had. But before we do that with Mack, let's take a look at this Tennessee and Missouri game because Ben Dumas, our buddy from the Wild Feathers, who came in here and was our celebrity guest picker for the day, he talked about the idea, the conversation, the narrative about the University of Tennessee and be tough for them to bounce back after Georgia kind of handled them. And I understand why that might be a popular narrative, but I just don't see any way in which Tennessee experiences the same kind of offensive slump that's caused by a defense. I don't see that happening in this game. Maybe at points, maybe Georgia or Missouri sees something on tape from the Georgia game is like, okay, we can keep a few more of these explosive plays down if we take X, Y, and Z away from the Georgia game plan and we try to implement it as best we can with our personnel. Teams are going to try that now that it's out there on film. But for Tennessee, there's too many deficiencies for Missouri to overcome. Maybe they cover the 20.5. Who's to say? What's do we have any kind of injury update situation on Jabari Small? Has there been any new developments on that whatsoever?
No, Heupel pretty much just said yesterday he's good to go. That he was banged up, had to leave the Georgia game. The junior running back should be back against Missouri. In what capacity, I'm not sure, but I'm sure Tennessee would like for him to not have to play much during the second half and allow Dylan Sampson, the freshman, to get some carries in there with Jalen Wright.
So I don't see a world where Missouri can score with them, right? Georgia, we knew that was going to be the thing. Like the defense was going to have to shoulder a heavier burden for Tennessee against Georgia because you could argue that the offense has the potential to be almost as explosive as what it is that Tennessee does. In different ways still. But I'm looking at the Georgia result and the thing that caused them the most problems. The pre-snap penalties and the protection. Those two things, I think if you have that cleaned up, I think you roll.
And Georgia covered on the back end better than anybody by far has covered Tennessee this season.
Sure.
And all year in Tennessee, we've been looking around like in disbelief, right? Like marveling at what was happening in year 2 under Josh Heupel. Like, how are they doing this, right? With not even 85 scholarship players and the talent gap between them and Alabama. And, like, Tennessee is talented, but there's a massive difference between landing in that, like, between 5 and 15 area in the composite rankings and 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
And that's where Alabama and Georgia have been the last few years. So that's why I think we've been looking around, especially after the Alabama game and even the LSU game, who is loaded with talent, saying, how is this happening? And it's scheme, it's coaching, it's all, and it's players. I mean, they're talented, and they're getting a lot out of Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt, who were 2 and 3 star recruits, respectively. But Georgia was the first team to finally say, okay, there's the talent gap. Now it's finally played out on the field.
Yeah,
they're just better than you.
Your firecrackers and sparklers, they can only get you so far when we're just going to man up and beat you.
They're just better than you on the line of scrimmage. They're better than you on the back end defensively, and they straight up showed you that last Saturday. I'm not saying there's not a path for Tennessee to play more mistake-free football in a neutral site, not in a raucous environment, and find a way to beat Georgia. I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm just saying Georgia showed us that this is how you beat Tennessee. You just have better players.
Agreed.
Missouri does not have better players.
No, and the only 2 SEC wins that Missouri has on the season are against Vanderbilt at home, and it was a close one. It was 17-14. And then they did well against South Carolina. They won pretty comfortably, 23-10 against a ranked team at the time. So since then, it's been a bit of a slog. They lost close to Auburn. Their highlight of the season thus far has come in a loss. It's that game that they played very closely against Georgia. I think we were in Indianapolis that weekend at the start of October for that game. And since then, it's not looked. I mean, defensively, they continue to hold teams down, to be honest with you. But it's not looked quite that crisp. They haven't been able to rise to that level that would necessitate the kind of defense you're going to have to play to completely hold Tennessee out the way that you would have to when you have an offense that's really struggling to score. I mean, they had the highest point total they have on the season. They put 52 up on Louisiana Tech to start the year. What is the status of Jalen McCullough? Because I know that the legal situation was basically looked at as not. He was cleared to play by the Tennessee administration.
He was basically cleared as far as university code of conduct goes.
So is there something that is bubbling back up that may cost him some time?
Yeah, and Tyler asks about this in the YouTube chat. Trey Wallace reported yesterday, 23 hours ago, Tennessee safety Jalen McCullough's case was not dismissed. It will now head to a grand jury after the preliminary hearing yesterday morning.
Okay, so that is the latest, courtesy of Trey Wallace. And we will keep you updated as information becomes available.
He played against Georgia.
No, I know.
But clearly...
He didn't play that well.
No.
He didn't have a good game.
But clearly it's not over on that end of things.
Yeah, so just continue to monitor that. It's been a fluid situation for the Vols secondary really all year long. So they at least have some guys who have been forced into action because of McCullough's earlier absence. All right, Coach Mack is going to join us. We'll take a look at a couple of different things. I want to talk to Mack about Thursday Night Football, what we saw from Marcus Mariota and the Falcons in a loss to the Carolina Panthers, and of course, we'll break down the matchup between the Titans and the Broncos. Coming up next on 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com for more information. Friday music, that means Coach Mack is out here with us, getting ready to talk some ball. He's presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Like an extra set of pads, they've been protecting Tennesseans for 75 years and making all the great Titans radio and Titans media production team content possible. Mack, how we living on this Friday?
Buck, I'm good. Getting ready for the Broncos here, just like you are.
No question. So we'll talk about Denver here in just a second, but how big a development to have Ryan Tannehill as a full participant at practice yesterday?
Well, I mean, it just shows progress. I mean, he's been progressing, ever since the injury as far as things that he's been able to do, and this is kind of the natural progression of when you're trying to come back from an injury that, debilitated you enough as a starting quarterback to keep you out. So we'll see where it goes.
Certainly. For the quarterback in this offense, though, Mack, particularly when they get into their red zone stuff, it seems like his mobility is such a big asset and has been a big asset for them over the course of the last couple of years. I know he doesn't have kind of the rushing touchdowns that he has in the past two, but still, it seems that they take advantage of that early and often when they have the opportunity to do so.
Well, the thing that happens when you're playing red zone defense, especially you're talking about the low red zone, which is the 6-yard line, to the goal line, then, every yard is precious down there. And sometimes when you're covering, if people are running crossing routes or if people are running snag routes where they're going in and out and you're trying to grab a hold of them, if a quarterback can sneak up and find a little bit of an area, there's not a long way to go. So, I mean, any quarterback, even quarterbacks that don't have mobility, Buck, if you'll watch in the low red zone, some of them are able to get in sometimes just because of the congestion that's going on down there and the immediacy of defenders having to lock up, in the end zone when it's in the low red zone.
Coach Dave McGinnis here with us on 104.5 The Zone, talking some ball with Coach Mack, as is the custom on a Friday. So for Malik, though, Mack, we'll see whom ends up starting at quarterback this coming Sunday against the Broncos. But from one start to the next, just kind of summarize what you've seen from him, and we can kind of go through some more of the details after that. Well, I mean, look, he's been put into two very, stressful and very visible situations with his first two starts. I mean, it's been extremely important that he experienced those and he came through it. I mean, your first start is on the road against a division opponent that you have to win. Your next start is on a national stage, against probably one of the top 5 teams in the league, and you're put in there in the game 17-17, when 4 quarters are done. So I think he's gained immense experience doing it, and you can see some growth, and there's some things that that he's done, especially in the second ball game, as to where he was in some RPOs and made some decisions with the RPO to be able to to either give it or to be able to keep it and take it. I mean, and he made some nice throws. I mean, it's just unfortunate that they weren't caught. Some of those throws that he made, the ability to scramble and the one he made to hoop was really a nice play. So I mean, all of this is valuable experience. It's just experience that's coming at a time a little sooner than anybody expected, but once it's put upon you, then that's what you have to do. So I think he's gained experience in the last 2 of them, and that will stand him in good stead, but he still needs to continue to progress in a lot of things. Well, and you bring up some of the drops that they had, Mack, like that 2nd and 9 particularly to NWI, and it would have been a big time catch if he'd have made it. It was contested and he obviously bobbled it a bit, but like Malik had, and quarterbacks miss throws, like it's going to happen, but what I saw in that play was an open opportunity that he didn't seem to look at. Have you noticed him struggling with progressions in particular, or maybe just things that the defense is showing him that he might not necessarily be able to process as quickly yet?
Well, I'm not honing in on him, specifically, when I'm watching, because I know that there's a big growth curve for him. But the throw to Connolly was dropped right out of the sky, right where it should be. And so those types of things. Look, there's a lot that goes into, a lot of chaos that goes into playing quarterback in the National Football League, and he's experiencing it at a high level. I mean, he won't experience it at any higher level, so far than he did in that Sunday night game against the Chiefs. So he'll continue to grow with it. But I'm not just zeroing in on him specifically when I'm watching, rewatching the games, because I've got to watch all of these guys, because you're going to play more than one person the next time you play.
Certainly. Coach Dave McGinnis here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So the Broncos dealing with their own situation. They're coming off a bye, and for Russell, it's been a learning curve, just as we've kind of talked about, in a new offense with a new coaching staff. For them, though, their struggles, Mack, their run game doesn't seem to be terribly consistent on first review, but they seem to particularly struggle on third down. Is there any kind of common cause that's kind of bogging them down, generally what's keeping them behind the sticks?
Well, it goes to first and second down, and I think you saw, in the last ball game in London what they did. They started going tempo and getting the ball out of his hands quick. That's where Judy's catches have gone up.
Yeah.
His targets have gone up. When they go tempo, they're using tempo like a run game. They're going tempo, quick throws, starting to use Dulcich, the young tight end from UCLA a little bit more. Sutton is their combat catcher down the field. But I think if you watch what they did against Jacksonville in London, it's a little different than what they'd done before, and I think we'll probably see some of that tempo out here at Nissan Stadium on Sunday.
So for Russell, Mack, I mean, when you deal with a quarterback of a smaller stature, we've talked to Greg about this before, Cosell, and there's just a certain amount of things that he may not necessarily be able to see, and that may remove some things from your playbook. You're going to be cognizant of that as a defense. What kind of advantages can that lend the defense's way?
Well, but see, look, this is an experienced guy, right?
Yeah.
This is not brand new to him. So his vision has always been amplified by the fact that he can move. And once you can move and nobody's in front of you, then your vision's pretty good. And so that's what he's always been able to do. Now, if you can keep him, cage rush him and keep him in the cylinder, then clearly, if he's down deep into the cylinder, then there may be some things that out of some sort of peripheral sides that he can't see. But he's always managed to play at a high level because, first of all, he's got an arm. I mean, we saw a 65-yard throw. I mean, he can still throw it deep. He can throw the moonshot still. But he's still got enough movement that you're going to have to be able to contain him, because when you don't contain him and he gets off schedule, then what you're looking at is his field of vision is as clear as if nobody were out there, because that's the way it is once he breaks either to his throwing hand or away from it.
We'll see what the Titans defense has prepared for them on Sunday. I mean, the job that they did, Mack, I know you've talked about this a million different times throughout the course of the week, but I still cannot get over the job that they did defensively to keep them in that game in Kansas City. 100 snaps when you can include the penalties, but 91 total defensive snaps. It's just it's hard for them to have been able to do any more, I would have thought. I know the coaches aren't going to look at it like that, and the players aren't, but I continue to be incredibly impressed with that effort, and they've been doing it all year long.
They really have, and that's just who they are. I mean, that's kind of their mindset, what they've been going on. And look, it was 100 plays, because if they're not accepted, your legs are still working out there. It has nothing to do with the penalty being accepted or not. But be that as it may, I mean, that's just who they are. They had a tremendous plan, for Kansas City. There were some guys that had to wear the hat that did a great job. Kevin Byard, matching up on Kelsey, did an outstanding job. The rush was really, really good when they had all of their people. I mean, they had 4 sacks that came just as pretty as you'd want to see, with games and things that they worked. And finally, look, Patrick Mahomes, we know what he is throwing the ball, and we'll quit talking about this game, but he did not win the game with his arm. He won the game late in the bottom of the fourth quarter with his legs.
Yeah, they made him have to go superstar, and unfortunately for the Titans, Pat is able to do that on any given play. So the Broncos on defense, Mack, I know that their run defense has not been overwhelmingly stout, but they've got one of the best pass coverage units and pass rush units, even in the absence of Bradley Chubb. I know that they're dealing with a couple. Randy Gregory missing some time has obviously made them a bit less than, but Pat Surtain is playing as well as any corner in the league right now.
He's a lockdown corner. A lot of guys try to proclaim themselves as lockdown corners, and some people will throw that tag out, pretty randomly, and it's not easy to be one. I had one in my 31 years of coaching, one lockdown corner. That was Aeneas Williams.
Yeah.
And he's got a gold jacket. This guy, look, he's got size, 6'2", 208 pounds, can run, can jump. He is a legitimate lockdown corner. And when you have one of those guys, as I was fortunate enough to when I was the defensive coordinator and the head coach, then you can kind of take him and put him on whoever you think is their most dangerous at times, either at sometimes during the game or throughout a game, and then work the other 10 around it. But Pat Surtain is a lockdown corner in this league, no doubt.
How much flexibility? I mean, you mentioned the flexibility that provides you as a defensive coach, but I mean, how much have you seen that specifically with them throughout the course of these first 9 weeks?
Well, sometimes it depends on who you're playing.
Sure.
I mean, it really does. I mean, it depends on who you're playing. I didn't always lock Aeneas down every time, but the 2 times out of the year we played Dallas because we were in the NFC East then, I put him on Michael Irvin. I can promise you that. Yeah.
Coach Dave McGinnis here with us on 104.5 The Zone. We don't know what Jeff Simmons' status is yet for the Titans to be able to go, but we don't talk, or at least on the radio show, Mack, we don't talk a lot about guys like Kevin Strong. T.R. Tart has gotten a lot more mention this year, obviously. He's been very incredibly active. He's been causing problems for offenses all over the place. But the depth interior-wise, what do we know about some guys that may see a little more action depending on what Jeff's availability is?
Well, I mean, look, the defensive front has done a tremendous job. You lose Harold Landry right off the jump, and so all of a sudden, you've got an edge gone. Well, they've made up for that. The Bud Dupree being in and out of there, they've been able to make up for that. Now Big Jeff has been there, all along. He's been working, but and sometimes, not at 100%. But I mean, so that group, they've done a nice job of developing depth within that group, and I've been very impressed with the fact that no matter who is in there, they continue to execute and bring it. Those guys bring it. I think that group as a whole has really been a big part of the success of this football team, because all that they have done, even missing some vital pieces, and they'll do the same thing. I mean, I don't know whether Jeff's going to play or not, but if things go as they have gone, whether he's in there or not, and whether he's 100% or not, they're still going to bring it. And they've been able to do that, pretty much, for 8 weeks. And so it's been impressive to me.
It's crazy. Mario Edwards is like a top 20 defensive player in terms of pressure rate this year. They're just getting guys, and they're doing what they always do. They find ways to put together these game plans that allow the players to succeed at a high level. Another unknown right now, Mack, we'll see what happens with Treylon Burks. But to see him back out there on the practice field, I went Wednesday. He looked like there was zero limitations on him, and obviously depth improves whenever he's able to return. But this guy, he looks like he was starting to round into form prior to the injury.
I agree with that. I mean, he was making some really good strides as far as development and just getting a feel for, playing receiver in the National Football League. And he really was. He was in great condition. I mean, I thought he was, just as you said, I thought he was taking another move as far as where he was going to be, and then gets the turf toe, and of course that sets you back. And I don't go into the rehabs. I don't walk around the building and look for the rehabs. But everything that was said about his rehab was he's working, extremely hard to get back to this point. It was really good to see him back on the practice field, and if he is on the game field, well then that just brings another element to you that you haven't had. I mean, you can't look. No matter what you do, it's always good to have your top dudes out there. And so if he's out there, that'll be a help.
Coach Mack here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Horns down this weekend, right?
Yeah, I mean, horns way down. I mean, it's going to be a challenge there in Austin. I've played there, I've coached there, and it's a challenging place to play, but the Frogs have worked themselves into this position, so let's see what happens. You got a lot of Vols fans rooting against you, though, Mack. This is the first time there's been any kind of conflict between Coach Mack and the people. Well, that's okay. I mean, they what I think they should be happy for, and I'm happy for, is the success of both programs. Yeah. I mean, because both programs have not been to this level in quite a while. So each alumni base has a lot to be proud of. And so to me, there's no conflict in it. It's just you got two places that are playing really good ball that have got the interest way up, not only regionally and locally, but now nationally. Absolutely. Coach Dave McGinnis, the best in the business. Titans Radio. Titans Countdown gets started at 11. We'll have you, Blaine, Mickey, myself at 9 a.m. And then Coach Mack, Mike Keith, Rhett Bryan, Amy Wells, whole crew have the call between the Titans and the Broncos across the Titans Radio Network. Thanks for the time, Mack, and I'll see you in the booth. See you in the booth, Buck. Thank you. See you. That's the main man, the man in black, Coach Mack, hanging out with us for a segment. So,
they're on the practice field right now. And I know that in the midst of all the chaos that we started the show with, Kayla Anderson was still getting off some exceptional Titans analysis while Lucas actively played defense against me. But to have him as a full participant is massive. It's huge. I was asking Mack about Malik Willis and progressions and missed opportunities in the passing game because what we're going to talk about at noon with some more Greg Cosell analysis is the idea that Malik, there's a narrative, I thought, after the Chiefs game that Malik Willis from start 1 in Houston to start 2 in KC was substantially better. And after talking to a lot of, I also, by the way, felt this way in the press box, despite seeing some of the missed opportunities that he had, and by the way, some of the terrible, terrible drops that cost them dearly. I came away from rewatching the game and then him specifically on a third time, feeling that there was not much progress made for him as a quarterback within this offense. Like they still did a lot to mitigate any risk that he might pose. And when I'm asking Mack about those progressions, those are some of the things. And like I've said, we've seen Tannehill miss throws this year or miss open wide receivers. It's not like I'm not talking about a complete and total indictment of Malik. I'm looking for, okay, what are people excited about? What are people using hope to kind of skew their perception of something? And what's actually happening on the field? And how are defenses actually looking at this? And what is the coaching staff telling us by the way that they're using Malik? So we'll have time to talk about that at noon, and you'll hear from somebody much smarter than me, Greg Cosell, about that. Mack went full diplomat on the Texas or the TCU Vols thing. I was really hoping we could start a fight, but he's not going to do that. He has to be so juiced, though. That's a huge game for them this weekend.
They've had success against Texas in recent years too. What was the situation with the Congresswoman talking to the Texas president? I mean, we got to dig it back up. The Texas politician, when she's asking, because Texas wanted to leave, the Big 12 and they're going to the SEC, and it was the Texas politician that I guess was a TCU grad saying, like, would you say Texas football is? I got to find it.
Oh,
but she ended up throwing a dig at the guy for TCU's record against Texas.
Well, there's been a couple of different things. There was a reporter, I remember, just frying the Texas athletic director after something had happened, and he was asked a question about their budget. And he said, I think it was like something $200 million annually or something. It's one of the biggest athletic department budgets in all of sports, is what Texas has on offer. And she was asking him a question about, well, do you think that would give you the opportunity to beat TCU or something like that? That amount of money that you're dumping into this program allegedly with little success. So I can't remember if it was the reporter or a politician that was having this conversation.
I have it here. It was Texas State Senator Lois Kolkhorst.
Okay, let's hear from Miss Lois.
What's your athletic budget?
It's over $200 million. It's probably 220, 225 in that range.
Where does that put you in the U.S.?
Depending on how you count, probably first.
And that's without a winning football team of late.
It's in spite of our football team. We've been winning, just not like we like to win.
3-7 against the Horned Frogs. So maybe your fan base would rather lose to Alabama than TCU. So.
That's what it was. So that's Texas President Jay Hartzell that she's talking to.
So what is the context for that exchange? Just on the idea that they're getting ready to they had to go through the legislative process to get approval to leave?
The caption on the broadcast is Senate Select Committee on the Future of College Sports in Texas. And she's asking about their budget, and obviously the news was fairly recent about Texas bolting for the SEC. Yeah, 3-7 against TCU. I guess you'd rather lose to Alabama.
Good for you, Lois.
So, yeah, they hate each other. I mean, this is an underrated rivalry in the Big 12.
So we'll see what result. And obviously the Vols playoff future very, very much tied up in that. They are a lot of Vols fans going to be rocking some Texas burnt orange on Saturday night, rooting against the Horned Frogs because they, of course, stand directly in your path to return to the college football playoff top four.
We didn't include this one in our pick'em games, but Oregon-Washington also one to watch. Washington with former IU quarterback Michael Penix Jr. Against Oregon, who is just a high-flying offense right now with Bo Nix at the helm. So that one will be interesting.
Yes, things to keep an eye on in the college football landscape. 615-737-1045. You can jump in. There's been an update on a one-star player who may not go. Oh, actually, we have to talk to Dan Lust. Dan Lust, because the Washington Commander-Skins football team, their owner, the league, the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, they're all being sued by the Attorney General of Washington, D.C. So we're going to talk to our lawyer about this coming up next. All right, when we're too dumb to talk about something ourselves, we call our lawyer. Dan Lust at Sports Law Lust on Twitter is where you can follow him for all of your legal insights and analysis relating to the sports world. Buddy, long time no talk.
Yes, pleasure to join you. And I have a sense of when I'm going to get the call at this point. This one I certainly think is worthy. So, yes, always happy to join you guys.
Well, we try not to pepper you because there's these situations, not quite to this extent. They pop up all the time. But obviously, we're not the only people calling you for your legal expertise. So, we try to save it for the big things. And the situation with Dan Snyder and the NFL, Roger Goodell, the Washington Commanders, being sued by the Attorney General of the District of Columbia. What have you made of the situation? And even down to the posturing on social media, Dan, I wonder how common that is just for people on the outside of these things for an attorney general like that to use social media to break the news himself and then, start to publicly position.
Okay, so I might have some unpopular opinions here, but nothing so bad. I mean, I am all for applying more pressure to Dan Snyder in the NFL. I'm totally fine with that.
Yep.
But, for the let's say the uninformed, but for the people that aren't following the story that closely, the AG over in D.C. basically said, hey, we're going to have this big announcement Thursday night, get ready to go, have all these reporters in the room. And then, the press conference and the complaint are really a recitation, by and large, I'd say about 90%, but stuff that we've long known for about a year. It's not really anything new that Dan Snyder, maybe behind some of these voyeuristic, allegations within the locker room, that that Dan Snyder knew more than he was letting on. So, if you watch the press conference and you just kind of follow the narrative from the AG's office, you would think that these were all bombs, like haymaker, haymaker, haymaker. And I'm like, well, we kind of knew all of this stuff. The news is that he's suing, right? Not just Snyder and the Commanders. The news really is that he's suing, the NFL and Roger Goodell directly. Ask me if it's a strong lawsuit. I'm not so sure about it. But the fact that the NFL and Roger Goodell are directly named in a lawsuit by a viable entity that is the Attorney General's office, that's the news part. There's nothing new that we've learned. The new thing is obviously the fact that a lawsuit actually occurred here.
Well, and I think that's the thing that I'm kind of most curious about, because you do see the list of people that they are planning to file suit against, and anytime you invoke Roger Goodell's name in one of these things, it tends to get a little more attention. So if the case is not necessarily a strong one, why go out of your way that way, I guess, is something about the legal strategy that I may not necessarily understand.
It wouldn't be the first time that somebody in a political office decided to do some grandstanding to get some attention on a particular issue.
Sure.
Not going to be the first, not going to be the last time that happens in our country, for better or worse. But I mean, I guess we can talk about the merits of the case. Like what is actually being alleged? I assumed it was going to be an allegation of kind of financial improprieties that somehow, that consumers were really being taken advantage of. And that's certainly part of it. But by and large, where the Attorney General focused his comments was that Dan Snyder and the NFL and Goodell, they all lied about the independent nature of the investigation, the NFL's investigation into the Commanders, like toxic workplace stuff, sexual harassment allegations, that Snyder and the NFL kind of lied about how much they knew. So, okay, is that a consumer protection issue? According to the D.C. Attorney General, he feels that if, the NFL and Snyder and obviously the team lie about anything to the public, that it can count to a Consumer Protection Act. Now, I'm not exactly sure how strong it is. I've never heard of that. Attorney General suing a sports team or something like this. But yeah, I'm not sure how strong it is, but it's maybe setting a precedent that, you can't just have this PR speak and just deny things without fear of liability. I think we all could acknowledge that Snyder probably knows more than he's letting on. Now you have somebody from the Attorney General's office suing him for apparently lying in public statements. I mean, that's set an interesting precedent.
Dan Lust here with us on 104.5 The Zone at Sports Law Lust is where you absolutely need to be following him. You can check out the podcast as well, Conduct Detrimental, wherever it is that you get your podcast. The NFL spokesperson, Brian McCarthy, who I'm familiar with, put out a statement yesterday, and I'll read it for people who haven't read it. The independent investigation into workplace misconduct at the Washington Commanders was thoroughly and comprehensively conducted by Beth Wilkinson and her law firm. Following the completion of the investigation, the NFL made public a summary of Miss Wilkinson's findings and imposed a record-setting fine against the club and its ownership. We reject the legally unsound and factually baseless allegations made today by D.C. Attorney General against the NFL and Commissioner Goodell and will vigorously defend against those claims. I saw that you fact-checked this on Twitter. What do people need to know about that statement?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? There's going to be a lot of denials that are going to be issued here. The NFL, at a certain point, right, and obviously you guys know I'm really in the weeds here. Once upon a time, just like we have in college sports sometimes, when like the universities, they go, you know what, we're going to self-impose discipline on ourselves. And everyone goes, you're just doing that to try to curry favor with the NCAA so they don't, get you with the, proverbial death penalty or something like that. So once upon a time, very early on in the Snyder saga, the Washington Post released some kind of scathing article about sexual harassment allegations, toxic workplace, and Dan Snyder went out of his way to hire a particular attorney by the name of Beth Wilkinson and her law firm to conduct this investigation. So Snyder hiring his own law firm, his own lawyer to conduct this investigation. At some point, really in the early phases of that investigation, another big Washington Post story came out. And then the NFL said, you know what, enough is enough, Snyder. We're taking over the investigation. But what they did was very interesting. They didn't switch the lawyer out. They kept the same lawyer on board. So the NFL goes, you know what, we're not switching the lawyer. You're just going to report to us now. Don't report to Snyder anymore. So from an optics standpoint, people are, I think, fairly accusing the NFL of not conducting a true independent and impartial investigation because they kept the same lawyer on staff. So for the NFL to continue to run this narrative that this is an independent investigation and we did everything right and, we didn't lie about anything at any point in time, the word independent is not, I guess you could do some mental gymnastics and try to figure out if it's independent, who's paying for it. But Snyder picked Beth Wilkinson, and Beth Wilkinson was not removed from the investigation. So that's the nature of really how the NFL is tied in here, that they lied about how much they looked into Snyder, how much they revealed about what Snyder knew. And it's really an effort by the Attorney General's office, for better or for worse. I think it's fair to call it some grandstanding, but they want to apply pressure on the NFL, on Snyder. I'm not sure this lawsuit's a winner, but again, applying pressure to the Shield, suing Roger Goodell, suing the other 31 NFL owners, I think this might expedite some news on the Snyder front. It's not a good look for the league.
No, it's an optics thing that they're fighting more often than not. It's what they always seem to put more at the forefront than the actual issues themselves, be they Dan Snyder concussions, et cetera, et cetera. This is very, very standard operating policy from the NFL. So given what we may consider the strengths and weaknesses of the lawsuit, what is potentially the worst case scenario here for Snyder?
I'll just be honest about this lawsuit. I'm not sure it's necessarily going to stick. And when they asked the Attorney General, this is a civil lawsuit. It's not a criminal lawsuit. So civilly, right, you could have to pay some certain amount of money, right? That's always the fear in consumer protection. But Dan Snyder, guy's a billionaire, not really that concerned. I don't think he's that concerned about civil ramifications. And then when they asked the Attorney General, what kind of damages are you seeking? How do you quantify a lie to the public about this workplace harassment investigation? That's, if you file a civil lawsuit, you're looking for money. You're not saying anything nefarious that someone's in it for money. That's what a civil lawsuit is for. And the Attorney General is like, well, I don't really know how to quantify that. We'll figure out that number later. And to me, to the earlier point I raised, I'm like, okay, this isn't about money. This is he's kind of saying it's about grandstanding. I think from Snyder's standpoint, what he's got to be most concerned with, he is very publicly said he's, hired Bank of America to explore potential sale options. And everyone kind of wondered, why now? Why, Dan, all of a sudden, now are you voluntarily willing to sell the team? If the NFL were to force Snyder out, we can talk about how that would happen, they would divest him of 100% of his shares. He would own 0% of the team, and he collect a big paycheck at the end of the day, but he wouldn't own the team anymore. If Snyder sells on his own, he could sell anywhere between 1% of the team and 99% of the team. But Snyder could still stay involved. I think that's, what I would be worried about here. The fact that now Goodell and, again, the other 31 NFL owners are all brought into this. Maybe there's potential discovery that is ensued. Maybe people are trying to get to the truth of this investigation. Owners will be deposed. If I'm, a Jim Irsay of the world, who's already, the Colts owner, already spoke out against Dan Snyder. Yeah. Maybe, you have owners breaking ranks to say, enough is enough. This guy just got us sued. Why is he still a member of the league? And maybe, again, that expedites this process to actually formally have a vote to kick Snyder out of the league. And, at the end of the day, you just need 24 votes. And I'd imagine you had some people crossing the line that just said, you know what, maybe I was on the fence. Now this guy's ready to go. So we'll see if we get there. But I think we're closer to that formal vote today than we were maybe a day ago.
At Sports Law Lust is where you can follow Dan Lust. We're talking about the Washington Commander situation. Dan Snyder, the NFL, Roger Goodell, and several other parties being sued by the Attorney General of Washington, D.C. So is it just as simple as the 24 of 32 votes to get Dan Snyder out of there, or are there legal processes to force him out if something like that, for whatever reason, doesn't come to pass?
Well, you're going to need the votes, but even if you have the votes, maybe this is not so well known outside of our I can admit, our little like sports law nerd circles. We follow this stuff pretty closely.
Sure.
But if you get the votes, that's what we're calling on our show like a mini trial. It doesn't mean Snyder's out. It triggers a process by which Snyder can defend himself and submit evidence. And as we've seen, Dan Snyder, very litigious. He can go scorched earth. He had a big contested lawsuit against his minority owners, different owners that I think owned about 40% of the team last year, sued them. He sued, he's had different legal mechanisms against former employees. So if the NFL does get the votes to kick him out, right, that doesn't mean he's out. It means that he gets to then defend himself. So that I think is the fear from the NFL's perspective, that if you want to go to battle with Snyder, right, the guy could go scorched earth very quickly and reveal some things that are only really known in NFL circles in that very exclusive NFL fraternity. And, if you choose to cast aside one of your own, so to speak, never happened in pro sports, not even with Donald Sterling. And we've never had a vote process to kick somebody out. So that's, I think, the fear. Maybe a story that you and I have spoke about a lot. Same reason why I think the NFL really wanted to settle that Deshaun Watson case, because they didn't want Watson to get to a very public platform in a court and being able to speak about Bob Kraft's allegations or Jerry Jones stuff. That's, I think, the fear. That's why I've always thought that the NFL would try to work out a voluntary deal with Snyder, but we'll see. I mean, I think they have all the reason in the world to try to kick him out, and the sale is going to take a couple months. We'll see what other type of lawsuits the NFL is hit with in the interim.
God, I hope that happens. That sounds like so much fun. At Sports Law Lust is where you can follow Dan Lust. He's the best in the business. Check out the podcast. Do it today. Subscribe right now. Conduct Detrimental. And you can Dan's all over the place, especially in the sports discourse, because there's a lot of different legal situations to discuss, and Dan always makes us smarter about them. Thank you, buddy. It's good to talk to you.
Always a pleasure, and enjoy your weekend.
You too. Dan Lust with us on 104.5 The Zone. I am thirsty for some NFL ownership mudslinging. That sounds like an absolute dream. Okay, let us get into the Titans quarterback situation. Let's take a look at some things that you should keep an eye on if Malik Willis is to make a third start. We'll also talk about Ryan Tannehill and his progress through 2 days of practice thus far this week. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The 5-3 Titans return to Nissan Stadium Sunday, hosting the 3-5 Denver Broncos, who come out of the bye week. The Lee Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 10 a.m. Titans countdown is at 11 for a noon kick with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill was a full participant in practice on Thursday. Jeffrey Simmons, Amani Hooker, Zach Cunningham, and Tier Tart did not practice. Mike Vrabel will inform us later this afternoon who will not be available against the Broncos. The 5th-ranked Tennessee Vols looking to bounce back from last week's loss at Georgia. They host Missouri tomorrow morning on Senior Day in Neyland Stadium. That's an 11 a.m. kick. Vol Network coverage picks up at 9 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Made it to the third hour on a Friday. Home stretch, kids. Hope you're having a great day so far, despite the weather. We certainly are. We're going to keep you entertained for the next hour at least. Lucas Panzica's back there making it happen. You can jump in on the show, 615-737-1045. Your phone calls are welcome. It's already noon. I feel like I just got here. That might actually be true. We have a lot of different things to get into. We've got some analysis from Greg Cosell on Malik Willis and on the Titans offense that I think you absolutely need to hear. And we will get to those things momentarily. But before the music started playing, Lucas got in my ear and said he found a crazy Patrick Mahomes stat that he needs to share with people. You want to lay this out? Where did you get it, first and foremost?
Got it from the NFL capsules that come out each and every week, courtesy of the NFL's communications team.
Yep.
Preparing for my scoreboard reads for Titans Radio Sunday as the Jags visit the Chiefs. Chiefs have won 5 in a row against Jacksonville. They play at Arrowhead Stadium Sunday. And Patrick Mahomes, if he throws for over 400 yards on Sunday, will be only the third quarterback in NFL history to do that 3 games in a row, which I was surprised by. But there are 2 quarterbacks.
400 yards? You were surprised?
Over 400 yards, 3 games in a row.
That's a tough thing.
It's a lot of yards. It's a lot of yards. But just at this era that we're in football.
That would be more yards than Ryan Tannehill has to this point in the season.
Like if you 400 times 3.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Good point. 2 other quarterbacks have accomplished this feat.
Okay.
One of them is Dak Prescott.
Okay.
The other one is who?
Ooh. It would have to be somebody who had 3 consecutive starts, so you can't go like totally crazy with the name. I want to say it's like Blake Bortles.
It's not Blake Bortles.
Not Blake Bortles?
Not Blake Bortles. It is one of the most glorious beards in NFL history at the quarterback position.
It's not Fitzpatrick.
It's Fitzmagic, baby.
What?
So if Pat Mahomes goes for over 400 in the air against Jacksonville, he will join the elite company
esteemed
of Dak Prescott and Ryan Fitzmagic.
Hey, he's pretty good on Amazon.
I like him, yeah.
I've enjoyed his commentary. Well, you don't like him enough to stick with the Thursday Night Football broadcast, apparently. Isn't that what you're telling me?
I have watched it less this year. Because
Thursday Night Football just generally?
A little bit, because the matchups have just been horrendous for the most part. And secondly, I very much enjoy flipping around on a Thursday night for whatever obscure college football game is on.
Memphis had a decent game last night. That was worth watching. But I know a lot of people like me were watching The Crown, fired up for season 5.
Nice,
very exciting. Posthumous continued fetishizing of the royal family, the way that so many of us do.
Yeah, I did have Thursday Night Football on last night, kind of in the background doing prep for high school ball tonight. But so I did watch Marcus Mariota get sacked. I think 3 of the 5 times he was sacked last night. But
all right,
the point is the product is good. Like Al Michaels.
Oh, I thought you meant football.
The broadcast product.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit. I like the panel they have with Andrew Whitworth and Richard Sherman and Ryan Fitzmagic, Carissa Thompson leading the charge.
I love that you refuse to call him Fitzpatrick.
But I feel like I'm trapped in the Amazon app. You know what I mean? I'm like, I want to watch something else. I don't want to have to exit an app and open another app to do so.
I will watch the entirety of that broadcast just to hear Al Michaels say "Lil Baby," just to hear him teasing the Amazon Music concert that they've got going on. I think like 2 Chainz is like hosting it or whatever.
Now here's Lil Baby.
Now here's Little Baby. It makes me very happy. Not just when he introduces it after the broadcast, but when he has to read the promo spot in the middle of the game. Like it's just it is delightful because that's like they're going for young and trendy and Amazon and streaming and all these things and Lil Baby and 2 Chainz and even though 2 Chainz basically a legacy brand at this point, it just makes me smile.
Yeah, Al Michaels was me reading SoundCloud TikTok rappers that I had never heard of. What is
Little Gravy?
Little Baby?
But anyway, well, let's touch briefly on Marcus Mariota, and then let's talk about the Titans quarterbacks, because this is let this be the only thing said about Marcus today, okay? I watched that game, and I have seen that game 1,000,001 times. I have covered every Marcus Mariota game that looked exactly like that. I have seen the pressure that he's generated on himself. I've seen the inaccuracies. I've seen the mind-boggling turnovers that just kind of leave you scratching your head afterwards. I've seen him win some of those games. I've seen him lose quite a bit. So what I watched, and I thought this was funny, the way that Mike Herndon put it on Twitter, he said, "Oh no, Marcus Mariota missing passes and Rashaan Evans missing tackles in a terrible Thursday night football game against a team with a cat logo." Or does that sound familiar? And immediately I flash back to Week 3 Titans-Jags. Oh, my God. Terrible weather. Oh, my God. Adoree Jackson. Like, it was all there.
Divisional game?
It was World War II stuff, man. The bombs were going off in my head, okay? I was shook. But all that being said, I got on the internet during that game, probably around halftime, and I saw the things that people were saying about Marcus Mariota. And I saw the comments like, well, this should shut up any remaining Marcus Mariota Titans fans or stans. And I understand that not everybody listening to this fine radio program is on Twitter. God bless you. It's better. By the way, they're already removing the paid for check marks.
They are?
It's already happened.
Oh, thank goodness.
They've already, I mean, people who have bought them get to keep them, but they're no longer implementing that process after a day of insanity on the app. So I get on there and I see commentary about, well, this should shut up the Marcus Mariota stance. And like, that's one of those things that I think people say, even though it's not even true anymore. Like, I'll make a comparison, okay? What's the first thing you hear about Joe Buck as a broadcaster? Completely unrelated from Marcus Mariota or anything. Joe Buck.
That people just love to hate Joe Buck.
That people don't like Joe Buck. But do people actually hate Joe Buck still, or is that just something you say anytime Joe Buck's name gets brought up? Because that's exactly how I view the Mariota thing. Who are these people? Who are you fighting against that's out here banging the table for Marcus Mariota to return to the Titans? There's like one D-bag on the internet having a day. And you're going to get yourself bent out of shape over that? And you're going to do some kind of grandstanding and posturing? Oh, this ought to shut those people up. Who are you talking to? You're not talking to anybody. You're just wasting everybody's time and energy and effort to keep bogging down my timeline with a bunch of it that's already spam anyway. Like, just shut up about it.
Yeah, it's the arguing with nobody. They said Steph Curry couldn't shoot threes.
You're literally arguing with no one.
Nobody said that.
Nobody said that to you. Nobody is out here in your mention saying, oh, Marcus Mariota would still be a great quarterback for the Titans. No, you're just saying things for the sake of saying them. So speaking of saying things, but with a purpose, let's talk about the Titans quarterback situation presently. Let's talk about some Malik Willis stuff, given that we don't know the status for Ryan Tannehill. And let's talk about Ryan Tannehill within this offense and the idea that Treylon Burks may return as well. We'll do both of those things coming up next. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Welcome back. See if Ryan Tannehill can't get up off it and get on the field for Sunday against the Broncos. Who would you rather see at quarterback? Is that even a question at this point? I don't think people are legitimately having the conversation that they'd rather continue to leave Malik Willis out there, are they?
No, I think that's another case of you're arguing with nobody, because I haven't seen anybody saying that.
Well, I have seen something to that effect, but I will agree with the premise that it's a far larger or far smaller sample size about this. Emmett Jones on the Zone TV chat says, Buck desperately trying to get anybody to pour salt on Malik Willis. No ex-coach or player will bite on that. Maybe Cosell will. Has it seemed like that's what I'm trying to do? That's certainly not the optics I'm going for. I'm excited for him to be out there. He seems to be enjoying it. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think that he's not a good enough football player to win them a game right now. That's all I'm saying. It's not anything malicious. It's not anything like I'm actively looking for somebody to tear him down. I'm just looking to do the analysis in a way that's logical. And what logic tells me is that he's not making, there were no great strides from start 1 to start 2. I thought the zone read stuff was executed better. I thought they did that well. And then it went away in the second half, and they didn't have much, and he can't play within their passing game. Yet. Doesn't mean it's going to be the case for the rest of his career. But at this point, that guy is not able to go out there and legitimately help them win a football game. Now, I know we can do the results the way that I kind of got upset at people for doing on Monday after this one, where I know there was a couple of people who called in that said, well, the Titans are X, Y, and Z away from being a one-loss team. And I said, well, of course, that's silly analysis because they're a 3-loss team, not a 1-loss team, and those things happened, and you have 3 losses on your season. So in the same way that I'm not gonna look to do that as the analysis, Nick Westbrook-Akina and Chris Conley had terrible drops. But that's not the only reason they lost the game. Would it have helped? Hell yes. Did it matter? No, because they lost it. So I'm not going to take any blame away from Conley and NWI because they got to make it. Somebody, for God's sakes, make a play. Somebody, if Malik Willis is going to be out there. And even when Tannehill's out there, because it was tough. It's tough for him too. They just don't have a lot of help. And when I'm looking at Willis, though, and I'm looking at some of the opportunities that he's missing, and when I'm talking to Greg about this on Wednesday, some more stuff comes to light that I think people aren't necessarily thinking about, and Greg does because he thinks like a coach. Let's hear from Cosell.
If you go to the fourth quarter, and this comes down as well to game management by the quarterback. I mean, there was a 2nd and 9 play from the Chiefs' 38-yard line with less than 11 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. They had an 8-point lead at this point, less than 11 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Now, Willis threw a fade to the boundary X Westbrook-Akina. I don't know if you remember this. It was incomplete.
Yeah, no, I for sure do.
Okay. Now, if you look at that play, it was a 3-by-1 set, and Hooper ran what we call a Y stick. That's common to everybody. And it was 2nd and 9. You did not need a big play. And based on the pre-snap look of the defense, the Y stick was going to be wide open, and it was wide open. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing. That's the learning curve for a young quarterback. You have to throw the Y stick there. It's possible it would have gotten a first down too, because there was really nobody that was covering Hooper. They would have reacted to the throw and him catching it. So Willis must continue to learn more about game situations and game management. But then the very next play, keep in mind they're at the 38-yard line of the Chiefs. This tells you much of what you need to know about how the coaching staff sees him. The next play was 3rd and 9, okay? Not a ridiculously long amount to go for first down. Not ideal, but it's not like it was 3rd and 16.
Right.
And what do they call a screen? And if you recall, that was a 4-yard loss. So that tells you they don't want him in those kinds of situations to have to read progressions and make a throw. And that's telling. We don't have to interpret that, Buck. They're telling us that. So this is not, hey, this is my opinion. This is what they're telling you. They really don't want him to have to make those progression reads in critical situations. They're trying to play without him having to do that.
Does that kind of clarify things more? Because I see some comments from, for example, the Twitch chat, boards up. If a receiver made a single catch, the Titans would have won. The quarterback also has to be in a position to get the receiver a catch. Now, I'm not, again, he did that for Conley. He did that for NWI. But the opportunities that he's missing are just as important beyond what him making a play, him having the play there as much as he can do, and then somebody fails him on the other side of that.
But it's pointless to argue with anybody that wants to make absolute statements on Malik Willis that, oh, he's a bust or, oh, he's the future of this team.
Nobody's saying that. Nobody smart is saying that.
Right. And for someone that's coming at you for saying that, because that's not what you or anybody else is pretty much saying. But I think the question for people is, and if Conley reels that pass in and NWI reels that pass in.
We have a totally different conversation.
Different conversation. The Titans win the game. But all of these things are still true. Right? Like if NWI makes that catch, it's still true that Hooper is open on that route.
Yeah. It's true that he's missing things.
And it's the easier play. But I think what people want to know is where's the progression right now? Because I think most people are in the middle where they're rational and they say, yeah, he's a young quarterback. There's a learning curve. He wasn't drafted to play now. He's playing now because of extenuating circumstances. So where is he from start 1 to start 2?
And the answer is the same. The answer is it looked very much the same. One more completion, more attempts, but the same issues. What my larger point is, I'm trying to reel people back in. And there's a lot of people who are being totally diplomatic about this. But there was a narrative that I saw on the internet that I did not think was reasonable, is that Malik Willis either played well, because I don't think he played well. I thought he played fine. He did not play well enough for them to win the game. That is the objective. I understand what he said about, I can't keep running around back here. I just need somebody to get open. Point noted. Your receivers are the worst at getting separation among anybody in the league. They're not making it easy on you, but when the easy opportunities do present themselves, take them. And he wasn't, because he wasn't seeing it. So I think that anybody looking to make a larger leap, even an incremental leap, like I didn't see much incrementally different between Malik Willis in Houston and Malik Willis in Kansas City. I saw a coaching staff who put together a game plan that he could manage. And I thought he managed fine, but not well enough to win the game. 615-737-1045. We're going to talk more about the offense specifically, because the offense, admittedly, they're not making it easy on them to have these kind of opportunities in the passing game. And I'll have Greg explain more of that here in just a second. But first, to the phones. How about Jerry in Nashville? Hi, Jerry.
Hey man. Was just thinking about Malik Willis, and it's not a divisional game. We're heading the division. Tannehill is questionable. Why risk it? Why can't we just play him, give him some more experience? If we lose,
you talking about on Sunday?
Yeah, on this Sunday, coming up against the Broncos.
Well, because if Tannehill's healthy, he gives you the best chance to win. You put him out there.
Well, no, I'm not arguing that by all means. Trust me on that one. I'm saying why we have a longer season this year, why not let Tannehill get a little bit more rest, put Malik in. Whatever happens, happens. But at least it's not a divisional game, right?
It's still a conference game. And you're 5-3. Like you don't have a lot of breathing room. You can't just afford to say, hey, maybe we mess around and beat the Broncos with Malik, but do you want to risk it?
They don't really operate in whatever happens territory.
Oh, who, Mike?
Right.
Yeah, not quite.
Or any NFL head coach.
Yeah, well, depending.
That's true.
Depending on who you ask. They're probably Josh McDaniels at this point probably like, hey. Renfro went on IR yesterday.
Waller.
Yeah. Well, they both did. Waller, unless I got by a fake blue check.
No, you didn't. I was adding Waller to that. Yes, they both did.
Okay, Waller, Renfro, they may lose to the Jeff Saturday Colts.
I'm looking more at their opponent that day on the whatever happens territory. I think that's exactly what Irsay is thinking.
Oh, God.
Yeah, let's get Jeff Saturday in there. Whatever happens, happens. We're just going to get a number 1 pick at quarterback.
Well,
anyway.
no, that's different. They're not even trying to be shy about the tank. Like they're not even. I mean, sure, if they're going to tank, let me get somebody I like in there. Let me get my boy.
What is he going to be mad if they win now? Is that what this is?
Probably. They should be.
They should be. Yeah.
They should
stop
be
winning.
No, stop it. If they like Mike McDaniel and then Justin Fields, stop running.
Stop it. It's really irritating. If they get to like 7-10, This fan
The
base,
Colts.
yeah, like 8 and 9, the worst possible spot to be in if you're
Well,
tanking.
I think that's why he benched Matt. Well, that's why he wanted Ryan
absolutely.
benched. Because
Well,
if you go like anywhere around 5, I mean, I guess you can't go 500 anymore. But
we don't have to look it up or anything, but is there anything conditional there on a percentage of snaps or starts that Matt Ryan that maybe they
not Ryan
as far as
but
the trade is concerned?
Wentz, I know, has conditions around
I
his.
I wasn't sure if that was a factor in benching Ryan.
I don't know that to be certain, but we can find an answer for that.
Either way, this fan base is going to be livid. The Colts will if they win like 8 games and just finish, in a spot where they can't go get a Bryce Young.
Yeah. So Jeff Saturday, whatever happens, happens. I'm just here for I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time, baby. Let's do it, Jimmy. Makes me happy. All right. So now to the larger issue, the more overarching issue. Yesterday we talked about what they needed to get right more, the personnel or the play calling or the scheme. The scheme, play calling, let's lump them into the same. Even though they're not technically the same, you get my point. Personnel, we'll see what happens. We'll see what Burke's availability is. We'll see what Tannehill can or cannot do. But I think the situation for the offense is also problematic when you listen to Greg talk about the way that they scheme players open, or really the lack thereof. Now, maybe that's limited by personnel too, but so far what we've seen from the Titans passing game has not been the kind of step that I think many people anticipated with Todd Downing now working with Tim Kelly. Let's hear from Greg.
Well, I'm always leery of saying, hey, here's something I would like to see, because you know me well enough to know I don't spend my time ripping coaches. Okay, I don't do that because I know how hard coaches work, because I know what I do. Okay, I know how much tape I try to watch every single week, and so I know what coaches do. But just talking ball, I think one of the things when you have a young quarterback and a totally inexperienced quarterback, and it could be true with Tannehill too when he comes back. And I should add, when you have receivers who are not necessarily the kinds of receivers, Buck, that can win one-on-one,
right?
Because they don't really have those guys right now. Is you need to create through your route concepts ways to get receivers open. Whether it's motion, whether it's stacks, whether it's bunches, whether it's natural pick elements, ways that you can define a read and a throw for a quarterback, and also your receivers can get open based on the concept that they're not just having to win one-on-one. There's a lot of plays in critical situations where they run individual isolation routes, and then you're expecting your receivers to win, and you also have a quarterback who's not experienced enough in the NFL to understand what open is. He's used to college open, and college open and NFL open are worlds apart. So I'm just saying this is something I would like to see more of, and I think it would help everybody.
So that's Cosell's summary of the Titans on offense. That's about as it's. And here's why Greg said the thing that he did. Because Greg's not saying, hey, I'm not ripping the coaching staff. But if they were to try and do something here that might help them with some of the problems that they're having, here's how they might go about doing it. Now, I'm sure Mike Vrabel and Todd Downing or anybody else on the offensive coaching staff would take suggestions. I think he's done this before with Tehran, where Mike Tehran has said something to the effect of, hey, you might, have you considered doing X, Y, and Z as far as helping the offense? And Vrabel just kind of snorts and says, what's your opinion? I'll ask for it, TD. So that would probably be met with a similar response. But what Greg is laying out there, I think is completely achievable. You just have to be willing to do it. There are plenty of, it's not like they're asking, you're not retraining the entire offense because you're running a couple rub concepts to create, to help get guys open, because they're just not getting open and you're asking them to win one-on-one so often. Now, Todd Downing was asked about the lack of production from the wide receivers specifically. He spoke to the media yesterday, and he takes accountability for it, but it still doesn't, I don't think it answers the larger question.
Yeah, there's certainly things that we try to do to help out in those regards. Obviously, some very talented corners in this league. We're going to play some this Sunday. And so we're always trying to do that. And I think that we've built quite a catalog of trying to get some of those rub releases and things of that nature, and there's always a balance in that too, holding the ball too long or letting something long developing unfold can put a lot of pressure on the protection. Excuse me. And, and so we're always looking for ways to try to scheme those guys up for sure.
So I guess where's the disconnect? Because I'll take him at his word. I totally believe it's not like it's not like a third grade reading level. Like Todd Downing understands more about NFL offense than I will ever possibly hope to understand. Ever. So where's the disconnect? If you're looking for those opportunities, are they just not being executed? I don't know that they would give us an honest answer on that, but you can see the results for yourself. Some of these missed opportunities that they have is on the quarterback, the rookie quarterback, who in these last two starts has missed some opportunities. Some easier plays that would have kept control of the game and helped them move the chains, or at least set them up to. Referencing the 2nd and 9 Nick Westbrook-Akina incompletion, where he just missed the tight end on the stick route. So this is it's a weird confluence of problems, because they have the personnel, I don't want to call it excuse, but you have the explanation as to why they continue to win above what their talent level is. The coaching is good. They put them in good game plan situations. They execute, but their margin for error is so thin because they can't separate from teams this year. They haven't been able to thus far. So as we look at the ways that they're trying to solve this Rubik's Cube of an offensive problem, is there one thing that they can fix first that will create a domino effect that makes everything easier? Does getting the players back help you scheme guys up more often? Can you scheme guys up more often while you don't have your top guys available? Those are the kind of things that they're working through at this point, and it hasn't gotten better just yet. Adam is in Murfreesboro up next. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Buck, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy.
Hey, I think, this goes right back to the point you just made. So if you remember, in the preseason, there was a lot of talk about Malik not wanting to stay in the pocket, not wanting to go through the progressions, wanting to escape using his feet. And I think what we're seeing now is they beat him down so much to stay in the pocket, that they're not utilizing his feet. For instance, some of that long third down against the Chiefs, where he ended up getting sacked, he had all kinds of room on the right-hand side, but it's almost like he's afraid to run because he doesn't know what the coaching staff's going to tell him when he gets back.
I think that's an element of it. He's just, he's in his own head. It would be difficult not to be. You got you got bodies flying around you at 100 miles an hour, and they all want you. They're out for blood.
And while you're getting phased out of what is your comfort zone as a quarterback.
Yes. You are being asked to do things still at this, this late stage in the season. These are still things that he's been being asked to do that he's not ever done on a playing field. The whole under center thing is relatively new to him. That's a very important part of the Titans offense. Just generally being under center. Think about that. So that's why I say nobody is making an indictment of Malik Willis's career, but you have to see where else they are being inhibited. Are the wide receivers bad? Yes. Are the wide receivers hurt? Yes. Could the offensive coaching staff stand to be more creative in some form or fashion? Yes. All of those things are so. Could Malik Willis operate at a higher level? The answer right now seems to be no. And they're doing things that at least they're going to be able to function, that they're not going to completely collapse in on themselves, depending who they start at quarterback. And it's beneficial more for the long term and for the immediate to have Willis in there as opposed to Woodside, even though I thought they might consider it, given that they can't execute their passing game with Willis. I don't know that they could do it with Woodside. I know that they have not yet been able to do it with Willis. I see comments. I can't even look at the Zone TV chat. Why are people asking for Deshaun Jackson?
Yeah, it's, again, one person lobbying for Deshaun Jackson.
Okay, so I saw the one. Prisoner of the moment.
Who's about to turn 36 and currently has a hamstring injury.
Yeah, one game for the Ravens. Not even a full game. He had like a 16-yard catch, hammy injury. And the wheels on the bus go round and round. Wrap up next. Last call for phone calls. Do some polls. Get you over to Blaine and Mickey. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. I'm excited to have a home game this weekend. I feel like we haven't had the chance to hang out at home for a while. Looking forward to it, buddy.
This will be my first weekend at home with no travel since September 17th.
Yeah, but I got zero sympathy for you.
No, you should have no sympathy for me. It is my own doing. On
So
the weekends, the Titans have been home.
You have chosen to travel even during home game weekends.
Yes. So during home game, bye week, I was traveling in Puerto Rico. A home game against the Colts, I believe. I was traveling in Dallas for a wedding and then had to come back for the noon kickoff. So, yes, it is my own doing. But nonetheless, cannot wait to sit and binge football for 13 hours on Saturday in my house.
Seems a productive use of your time.
It is. That's what's great about this job.
Yeah. No, you know what? You're spot on. Little victories. Last call for phone calls, and then we'll do some polls. How about Chris in Hendersonville up next? Hey, Chris.
Hey, Beck. Appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Sure.
I think you guys do a great job. My question is not so much around Willis or the wide receivers. My question is more around, do you feel like Todd Downing has a good feel for the game? And what I mean by that is we got the Chiefs into a situation that we wanted. We've got the lead. Defense is playing great. And you look back, and Derrick Henry only got the ball back-to-back carries once in the second half, and he got a first down. The fact that they were passing on second down every single drive and we're going 3 and out, that's where I feel like he doesn't have a feel for the game. The Okonkwo, end around and the Giants game and the Willis fumble on the trick play when we're trying to salt away the game.
Now, I think it gets amplified because of the result, Chris, but I don't disagree with your premise because there are moments. Thank you for the call. 615-737-1045. I don't disagree with the premise because he does seem to, in weird spots, just make the actively wrong decision. You know what I'm talking about? Like the Chig end around is something that we started the season off with, so maybe that's just a narrative that exists. But not even in the second half did I have a problem with it, even as I would have liked to see Derrick get more carries. They won't tell us why Derrick Henry only got 17 carries in the game. They just flatly won't. We're going to get offered no explanation on that from Derrick, from the coaching staff. Like they just going to say that was what it was. I think the greatest point where I took issue with what they called is on the drive in overtime before they when they ultimately failed to keep themselves in the game. They held the Chiefs to a field goal. The defense did its job. Chiefs won the coin toss. They took the ball. They go down the field. Defense keeps them at bay. 3 points. So now all you got to do is, you got to run your offense. You got to run Derrick Henry in overtime. Because in that game, it seemed like he was getting 3 or 4 yards a clip every time you handed him the ball. And because Willis is in there, it allows you a little more flexibility. We talked about the zone read game that they were able to successfully implement in the second quarter. It's as good as they've looked on offense all year in the second quarter. And then all of a sudden it dissipates. So a feel for it is difficult to quantify. But I do understand your meaning because we've had those thoughts in the press box ourselves. Who's on the line, Lucas?
Bobby in Springfield. Real quick, before Bobby, a little bit of news. T.J. Watt expected to return for the Steelers this Sunday for the first time since week 1.
Who do they play? And
not expected to be on a pitch count. The Pittsburgh Steelers in week 10 of the 2022 NFL season play
stall.
The Saints.
All right, Bobby, go ahead.
Hey, brother, thank you for taking my call. Love your show.
Thank you.
Don't always agree with everything, but I think that's what makes you so special, man. So, real quick question. Obviously, Malik, came into this league. I think that my view, and you might already answer this question. I'm sure you have your opinion on this one pretty quick, but where he came from, he was handed a ball and kind of just said, "Do your thing." Do you think that because of the way they're trying to adjust all his footwork and the precision part of his throwing and everything that's gotten into his head of not playing Malik ball? I'll hang up and listen to it. And again, I love your show. Y'all have a blessed day, guys.
Thanks very much. You as well, Bobby, and a great weekend. I I think that's why it looks more comfortable in the hurry up, in the 2 minute. Because he just go out there and play. It's less structure. It's less thinking. There is structure. There are concepts that they're running, but he's definitely operating more freely. This is something that we've talked about with the coaching. So Keith Carter, the offensive line coach, okay? We talked to Keith Carter about this the last 2 years with Dylan Radins. How there's a couple of different things that Dylan needs to improve upon, but he's overthinking he's overthinking instead of focusing on taking the perfect first step. Well, take as good a first step as you can get, execute your block, do it at 100 miles an hour, and just finish the play. But the response that we had gotten, and this has been the last 2 training camps for the Radins comparison, the response that we had gotten from Carter was, yeah, he's made improvements. He looks like he's been in an NFL weight training program. We just need him to play a little freer. So for Willis, I think that's absolutely a part of it. You're asking him to learn a million different things. There's a lot to learn from the level of quarterbacking that he's coming from to the level of quarterback that he's being asked to operate at now. These are the kind of speed bumps that one should expect. Polls.
Hello, my name is Borat. There is a show in America called Buck Rising. I like very much. As a man named Lucas, like my producer, Azam Bagatov, will update something called Final Pollings. I'm very excited, very excited. Do it, Lucas. La, 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 la.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers sells below MSRP on all non-specialty new Fords. What should the Titans' strategy be if Malik Willis starts at quarterback again? A reminder, Ryan Tannehill was a full participant at practice yesterday. Andrew says making sure the leader of the team is on time to his job, unlike you who can't make it to the show on time. Goody says stop trying to go straight drop back more, move the pocket on play action.
Do we think that I'm the leader? I'm not the leader in this circumstance.
That is misguided.
I think that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what it is that we do. It's like Charles Barkley. I'm no role model. I'm not a leader. I'm not looking to be. No, thank you. I show up and make sure that Lucas, can put a radio show on the air.
Titans for Life says basically the same thing they did in the first half against the Chiefs, except do that the whole game this time.
Yeah. Yes, I think that would be the most basic level of analysis. Listen, I'm not out here knocking Willis. I'm just looking at the deficiencies thus far, and I'm saying that they need more out of the quarterback position. They need just general basic competency out of the quarterback position, and they also could use wide receivers who are competent as well. They don't have either of those things right now.
Rube says run the damn ball. Will the Vols cover Broncos' rush defense, by the way? Not better than the Chiefs, but competent.
Yeah, they're okay.
But they're missing some bodies.
They are missing some bodies. Trading away Bradley Chubb does not help that. Randy Gregory, while he's not thought of as a run stuffer, certainly he is a better player than what they've been trotting out there right now. It should be to run the ball. Just run the ball.
Will the Vols cover 20.5 against Mizzou? 75% say yes.
I took them to. At this point, we'll see. 20.5 is a big line, but I think there's no way that Mizzou can score with them. And I think once you get in that situation against Tennessee, they just roll.
Did the Falcons game give you Mariota PTSD? 59% said yes. 11% said no. 30% just didn't watch. Jacob says it's like when you see your ex having a complete meltdown, and for some reason you missed it a little bit.
No, I didn't miss anything about that. The only thing that I hated afterwards was the amount of dumb discussion going on about, the Mariota stands. They have to eat this one. Shut up. Back to your hole.
Has Thursday Night Football made you less likely to watch it? 57% say yes.
What is wrong with you?
I was scrambling before the show.
No, you can't pin that on me. We did that a half hour before the show.
We did do that a half hour before the show.
There is zero reason that my lateness should lead you to just have a grammatical spasm on my Twitter account.
I love having grammatical spasms on your Twitter account.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Those the balls? All right. Oh, we say it a lot. We should probably say it more. It's a very dumb radio show that we do, but we're happy to do it. And we are even happier that you guys continue to hang out with us the way that you do. We're grateful for it. Have a fantastic weekend. You're not done with me yet. I'll be on Blaine and Mickey later this afternoon. And then Titans pregame, the Lee Company countdown to kickoff, 9 a.m. outside.